This is it. My guest today, Maxine Nunn, the behind-the-scenes heartbeat of the Spirit Church, famous child actress.
No.
And mother of three, wife. Thanks for joining me on the program today.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, I'm thankful you came today, too. You've done so much in your life. Did you think that this is where you would end up when you were a little kid?
Heavens no. Not in the least. I actually really didn't have a vision for myself when I was a kid. So seeing where I've come and what I've been through I'm impressed by myself.
Yeah, nothing. You didn't want to be like a princess or nothing, huh?
No. At one point, I think I wanted to be a lawyer. Maybe a dentist at some point.
Yeah.
But
a dentist. So a lawyer or a dentist. So I was going to either clean teeth or get people out of jail.
Yes,
Those
one
are
of the two.
Those are your visions.
One of the two. I just have this like slight infatuation with teeth.
Really?
I don't know why. But I think if I would have gone that route, I probably would have been pretty miserable.
You think so?
Yeah, for sure.
So no vision, but what else was going on in your childhood? Why do you feel like you didn't have anything to look forward to? What was going on?
What wasn't going on?
Yeah, okay.
No, I would say for me, my childhood was a little non-existent in some ways because I was raised by my mom. She's a single mom, and so I was doing a lot to help with my two younger sisters, and so I grew up fast. I had to grow up fast.
Growing up fast.
Mm-hmm.
So two sisters and a mom.
Mm-hmm.
Dad wasn't around?
No.
Nope.
My parents divorced before I even started kindergarten, so.
So what was that like for you? It
wasn't memorable. I don't remember much. I remember a season with my dad being around when I was very little. When we were in Texas, and I remember we moved back to St. Louis, and I didn't see him much anymore until I, got older. So
mom's a young mom, two kids, raising you. You feel like you're growing up a little bit too fast. Yeah. So what kind of stuff were you into? Like too early?
I would say I had a lot of responsibility at an early age.
Yeah.
And looking back now, it helped shape me into the person that I am today. But back then, it's like, these not my kids. Well, I'm like the second mama.
Yeah.
These are not my kids. And I remember, it's a funny story. When I got my license, and my mom was so excited for that, as I was as well, but she had different motives for being excited because now I can run all the errands, I can take my siblings to school, pick them up, and
you ready to go
that
hang
stuff.
out with friends?
Yes, that did not happen. No, but I appreciate she did the best that she could, being a single mom and trying to raise 3 children on her own. So, but I couldn't appreciate it back then.
Yeah, I think about my daughter Maya, who is she's turning 7 this week, and all the little errands I have her run, like, hey, can you go get me this? Hey, I need you to go get me a soda out of the fridge or whatever it is. Or, hey, can you pick up your brother's mess? He can pick it. No, I need your help, honey. He's not paying attention, and you're a good listener. So I think, like, when she's like 15 or 16 or 17, she's going to be telling everybody, my dad, I was really parenting all those kids. He kept having them, but I kept taking care of them or whatever, And I want to be like, lady, you picked up a sock.
Listen. I think our children, especially the younger two, they feel like in some ways that we had them just to have like our own little mini slaves.
Right.
Go do this, turn off the light. And they're really like, Mom, you could get up and go turn off the light. But I didn't want to. I want you to do it.
Yeah, they're like, let my people go. No, get in there and do the dishes.
Right, exactly. But it's teaching them responsibility.
Hey, responsibility. So do you feel that way? Do you feel like growing up so fast and maybe being expected to take the car and run the errands and do those kinds of things, that responsibility, you said like it made you who you are, but did you feel that at the moment?
No, no, not at all. Heck no. In the moment, I couldn't understand or appreciate the values that were being instilled in me. Like to this day, my mom was a stickler about things being clean, no matter what. And if we didn't do one thing right, we had to start everything over. But I appreciate that now because I'm a very clean person. I like my things neat and in order. But those are just things that I believe that every child should learn so that when they're an adult, they know how to clean up, they know how to cook on their own. So being self-sufficient is a good thing. So.
Yeah, so you appreciated that part of it. But what parts of your childhood or your upbringing did you not appreciate so much?
Oh gosh. So I've learned that everyone's parenting style is different.
Mm-hmm.
And I also learned that my mom gave me the best that she believes that she could have. To me, there were some areas that were rough at times.
Like what?
There was some abuse in some areas involved, and just a very high tense household.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, I was the child that just wanted to do things right so I didn't upset her or frustrate her, so I wouldn't get in trouble. And it caused me to become somewhat of a little bit of a perfectionist when it came to certain things, because I just wanted to not hear any yelling. I didn't want to get in trouble for anything. And so that impacted me a lot growing up.
I was just listening to some Tim Rod podcast or something. They're talking about people who grow up in those situations where like it's tense at home. It's very difficult for them to sometimes do good in school and do good in other places because they're so preoccupied with like keeping the household a safe place for themselves. Like I can't get mom upset, I can't get dad upset, I can't do this. I've got to like keep everything in their pieces. And you felt some of that tension, huh?
Oh, absolutely. But when I find myself in tense situations, I played cello back then.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, love cello. From third grade until I graduated high school, I played cello, and I started off playing violin, but my cello ended up being an escape for me. So whenever something was going on in the house, I was just high stress from the house, I would go downstairs and just play my cello or read a book.
What was it about the cello that made Maxine feel like, because I not one time in the history of my adult life have I been like, oh, have you heard the new cello record? Like, I don't know. It's not something.
You probably won't ever say that. I love the sound that comes from the cello. It's just, and it was very big, so I felt like I can play this big old instrument. This is nothing for me.
Yeah.
But I love the sound that comes from it. I love the part that it plays in the whole orchestra of things. Normally, you don't hear the cello sound. It's like, I liken it like this. It's like a background vocal to a lead singer, and it's just beautiful. I love it.
When I was in like middle school, when the band stuff happened, you know, like you pick your own instrument. Do you remember when you went up to like or did you have to go up to like the music shop and like pick out which instrument you wanted to play with the school band? How did you pick the cello?
You know what? So our school, everyone had to start playing the violin for a year, and then once you did that for a year, you could pick whatever instrument you wanted. And so I saw the cello, and I was like, I can tackle this. This is big. I want to try it. And I loved it.
Yeah. So I picked the drums. I was on the marching band, the snare drum.
Sounds about.
And I remember like if you were in band, you were sort of nerdy, but if you played the drums in the band, you were like a level up.
Yeah, that's a level up for sure. For sure.
So I didn't finish out my career though. I stopped playing sometime in high school. When did you give up the cello?
Well, after being an adult.
You still got it in the basement? You still rock it out?
I gave my cello to someone. Someone had gifted me like an electric cello, and I gave it away because it wasn't being used. The last time I played my cello was for my husband's singing group on a song.
Stop. Husband's singing group.
Yes.
Now, back behind the scenes here is Mr. Kenny Nunn.
Yes.
Your husband extraordinaire. He's not joining us on camera, but I did not know that there was a singing group.
There was.
Please tell me. Can I guess the name?
Yes, please guess.
Kenny Nunn and the Supremes.
Nope.
The KN Experience.
Nope. Not even close. His name, the name of his group was called The Humbled.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Oh, what? That's so nice. That's such a nice Christian name for a band, isn't it? Like, that's a PK name if I ever heard one for my band. Dad, it's named Humbled.
Yeah, and I think
we're playing at the club downtown, but
right,
we're humbled.
No, but we were a Christian group, and I think that name very much represented my husband because he's so just mild-mannered and just very humble in all that he does. He's never like prideful or boastful, so I think it matched him very well. And it was comprised of some of his siblings, some friends, just a bunch of different people.
So you played the cello in the band.
No. I played the cello on one song.
One song. Oh, so when they went to play a concert, you weren't behind them.
I was just singing.
Sing.
Yes.
All right. So you like to sing and play the cello. Not, are you like, or do you find your singing is like your love for the cello? You appreciate the background of it all.
I do.
Yes.
That's it.
And that's sort of like how you work at the church too. Sort of like in the back. Like I appreciate all that's going on up front, but I don't mind stepping in the second row and doing things from. So that's like sort of that's interesting, right? So you sort of see this through line in Maxine's life. We're gonna break down Maxine's life right here.
Let's go.
In Pinecone Studios. You have a through line of sort of not wanting to be out in front, but being called to be out in front by your mom, being called to be out in front at school to play the cello, being called out in front in church, being called out in front to be a young mom. So you're being called out a lot of times. And so where do you think this comes from? Or what do you think this is?
I know that leadership lives in me.
Yeah.
I know that's one of my giftings. And so I think that when you understand what your giftings are, then those things start to make sense. Because back then I'm highly introverted.
Yeah.
I don't like I don't like the attention. It's not my thing, and I can live without it. But I do also recognize when the Lord is trying to pull you out of your comfort zone, and he's done that my entire life.
So that's a good Christian answer, and I always appreciate the good Christian answer. But I always like to pull a little bit farther.
Let's go.
We're not Christianese around here. When you were 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 or 15, you weren't talking like that.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And so you said the Lord has exposed that to you, and I'm so glad that he has. But let's talk about the realness of it. So when did God show up in your life and that you were able to even do that?
I got saved when I was in the 3rd grade.
Oh, look at you. Okay.
Was I living right all the time? No. But I got saved when I was in the 3rd grade, and I remember responding to an altar call at, oh my gosh, I think it's like San Francisco Temple. It's a church in North County somewhere.
San Francisco?
Yes.
In Missouri?
Yes.
San Francisco, Missouri. Let's go down to the Golden Gate Bridge.
No, it's here. And I remember in that moment, I was so excited. I'm like, I remember going home, and I'm like, I have to clean this fork because Jesus will want me to clean this fork after I...
Tell me more.
Yes. And I was like, I can't mess up the kitchen because Jesus wants it to stay clean. And so I was 3rd grade, right? And so... As I continued to grow, I didn't always stay in my relationship with the Lord, and I kind of strayed away here and there, but I never forgot that I still wanted to remain close to God in some way. And so that kind of carried me through some of the difficult times that I faced. Even growing up, I had my daughter when I was 16 in high school, and so that foundation, I feel like the Lord was just always present with me, even when I wasn't trying to walk with him.
Yeah, so seasons of it. So mention, you had your daughter at 16 years old.
Yes.
When I was 16 years old, I can tell you that I was up to no good. I was up to a lot of no good, but being a parent, if you would have tossed a baby in my lap at any point, when I was 16, I was playing music in the bands downtown. We were running around smoking a lot of cigarettes, sometimes a little bit of other stuff. And, we were just up to no good. And I can't imagine someone now that I've had 4 of them, don't hand me a baby at 16. So tell me what it's like, 16-year-old mama.
It wasn't the best. I'll tell you that. I'll say I was a child trying to raise a child, and I had no idea the magnitude of that responsibility. And I also was left with this stigma that most people that get pregnant in high school, they don't graduate. They go on, they have to work because they have to take care of the child. And I fought really hard against that to make sure I graduated still. I went off to go to college for a little while. So I didn't let it stop me, but it was very, very challenging to have a kid at such a young age, not being able to experience some of the things that I would have wanted to. I had to work full time, and it was a journey.
What were the conversations like? You said you were born again in 3rd grade. So when you found that pregnancy test and it said positive.
So let me tell you, back up a little bit.
Okay, please do.
Let's rewind this a little bit. I had no prenatal care. I never once went to the doctor. My mother did not find out until I was in my 9th month of the pregnancy.
Oh my goodness.
And when she did, it was because
you must have been so skinny.
I was very small, but I wore like baggy clothes all the time. And then
I hear these stories in magazines and stuff. I never. Okay,
here I am.
Yeah.
Real life.
Wow.
And I used to get out of high school and go straight to work, sometimes until 10, 11 o'clock at night. And so we just never kind of ran into each other a lot. And so my younger sister underneath me was getting in trouble. And she said, well, you need to check Maxine's stomach because she looked like she pregnant.
No, she didn't.
She snitched
put
on
you on
me.
in blast.
She snitched on me. And my mom was like, no.
We ain't friends still.
My mom did not believe it. And even when she saw, she was like, let me see your stomach. And there it was. And she took me to the doctor. And
who did this to you?
My mom, oh my God, the disappointment. Now, I had seen her angry before, but to see her so disappointed was just like the end all for me. And I remember she took me to the doctor and they were like, ma'am, she's dilated. And I had my daughter a week later.
She found... I can't with this news. So
yes,
you're laughing about it now, but I imagine it wasn't this joyful.
It wasn't funny back then, for sure.
In the moment, your mom is talking. She just finds out that her oldest daughter, who she's needing to do all the other stuff around the house, has now gotten herself in a situation where they're going to have another mouth to feed. Difficult news for any parent to take. At any point, probably, you know, like, hey, this is my baby. I don't know what happened, what I could have done to stop this, or who knows what, but you're 16. 16, and a week later you're giving birth. Were you prepared for this at all? Like,
no way.
No, I mean, not prepared like to be a parent. I mean, like prepared like to like, because you hit it so well. Like I can't. Yeah. What was going through your mind at 16 years old?
I said, you know what? We had a creek in our backyard. I said I'll just go back in the creek and have the baby, and I'll hide because my room was in the basement, so I was like, I can hide the baby down here with me. Like I had this really stupid plan at the time.
But that makes sense for. Remember, 16-year-olds are not the brightest.
Right, exactly. Can you tell?
Just because you can have a child don't mean you need.
Hello.
You said, I'm going to take the baby in the creek.
I was going to have the baby.
Yeah, have the baby in the creek.
So my mom didn't hear me.
And then you can bring the baby inside. It's never going to cry.
Yeah.
And you're going to be able to take care of it until at what point? Like, you know,
never.
Mom, here's your grandson. He's 30. He's like, hey.
Yeah. By the way, you know, I had a baby down here in the basement with me. So, you know, no big deal.
So was she ready to chop your head off, or what was it like bringing the baby home?
It was weird.
Or did she say get out? Or what did you?
It was very, very weird because at one point we talked about all these different options, alternatives, and all those things, but I just didn't feel right with any of it. I could not have had a child out there that was mine that I just didn't know anything about. And so she eventually came around, and her and my daughter's relationship is great. But it was tough at first. And I think I can understand the disappointment from my mom's side because here she is, I'm 9 months pregnant. And then the next week, here comes a baby that we have to take care of. And so I could just imagine if I was the parent in that type of situation, how I would react. So I understand it now. But back then, I'm like, I'm the one that's sad. I got a baby I got to take care of. But you live and you learn, I tell you.
Because this story, so for those who don't know, so give the ages of your children currently.
Well, my oldest daughter, who we're speaking of now, just turned 21 yesterday.
So 21 years ago.
Yes.
Not to date Maxine, but we're just going.
Right. 21. And then my son is 16, and then our youngest is 14.
So can you imagine your middle child, KJ Jr.? Mom.
Yeah.
I got some news.
I probably would strangle him. No. I probably would strangle
She better
him.
be giving birth the next week.
Listen. I was in ROTC in high school, and I had a first sergeant that used to always tell me, he always told the girls, you know, guys can't get pregnant. It was a method to kind of like, girls, you the one gonna have to carry the baby and take care of it for real. And I remember that growing up, dealing with that first sergeant. I remember I got pregnant and I felt like I let him down, and he knew, and he was very supportive of it. But if one of my children came home at 16 and was saying, oh, by the way, I'm getting ready to have a baby, I would probably flip a lid. I don't even know what I would do.
Yeah, and we're God-fearing people now.
Yes, we love Jesus, but we're humans, so yeah, it'd be weird.
Yeah, so weird. So let's talk about God a little bit in your pregnancy. So you're 16 years old. Are you praying and saying, God, why you let this happen? Or is he involved in any conversations surrounding the pregnancy?
No, not at all. At that point, I was just in this state of, at first, unbelief. I didn't expect it. I'm like, maybe just something going on, you know. And as time progressed, I'm like, hey, I feel something in my stomach moving, and all of these things. Now, mind you, I didn't get any care. I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't do any of that. And so even though I wasn't talking to God or keeping him a part of that, I believe that the Lord had his hand on my daughter's life, even though I wasn't really seeking him during that time, because I had no prenatal care. I had no one checking on her. And so when she was born, her hip was dislocated. She had to go into surgery, like all these things that we probably could have caught had I gotten care. And so God kept her, and he kept me. Yeah.
So a season of your life. So you graduated from high school. You said you went to college some. So what are those first, you're basically catapulted into adulthood, right?
Yes.
So like now I'm a parent, I'm 16, I'm a baby having a baby, but here we are anyway. But now you've got to navigate some sort of life. Like we know where you end up now, and you're at a good place now.
Right,
and I think this is why the testimony is so strong, that we need to sort of, let's walk down that line. So the years that followed Jordan's birth, what was that like for you? Like, where did you go in life? What were you trying to accomplish? What were you trying to do?
My main focus at that time was to graduate high school. At least if I get my degree, I can go on to go to college or at least get a decent job. And so that was my main agenda at that time. So I believe I was a sophomore. No, I was a junior when I had her. And so then I had this crush on a guy. Ooh. And he was pretty cool. He sung. He actually came into one of my classrooms and sung this song to somebody else. And I was like, oh my gosh,
he's singing to me. Oh,
he was singing to me. No,
but you didn't have that in your mind.
No, it's for me. And I ended up my senior year in high school. I ended up starting to date this guy who is now my husband. And my daughter was 10 months old at the time. And so he just really encouraged me. He really got me back into my relationship with Christ. I think our first date, we went to his church. He's like, you coming to church?
Oh, what a good first date.
Yeah.
That is such a churchy thing. That's the first date me and Megan went on too. So Megan and I probably told you the story, but I'll share it with the audience anyway. So I asked Megan to go on a date with me. Now, we didn't go to the same church at that time in our relationship. And yet I rolled up in there to her church and she didn't even sit by me. At least Kenny probably sat by you.
Yeah, he did.
Megan didn't even sit by me, and then afterwards she goes, I walk over to her. I'm like, hey, so let's go. We had plans to go to lunch afterwards. And she's like, okay, hold on. And she walks away for a couple minutes, and she comes back with 12 of her friends.
No.
Maxine, she brought her whole youth group. And she wasn't even a youth anymore, but she brought the whole youth group. And we all went to Qdoba together. She didn't even sit with me at the Qdoba. She sat, and the only conversation I had with her was like on a walk to the bathroom. And
what?
My first date experience. This is when I learned about Christian courting and like, accountability and watching out and I was like, what on earth are you talking? A date? I asked you on a date. I didn't ask to go out with your friend.
No date. It's a group.
So he took you to church. Now I have not had a good experience with that, but yours led to something.
Yeah, it did. And I think when I started dating, because I was dating this other guy who was, I hope he got saved. I'm not going to say anything negative, but he was not the best. Yeah. Just dealt with some abuse in the relationship. He was doing things that really didn't line up with what I believed in. And when I started dating my husband, I was just like, wow, this is such a change of scenery for me. Yeah. And I remember, like, he would try to hug me and he'd be nice to me. I'm like, what's your angle? What do you want? Why are you being so nice? Because I wasn't used to that at home. We weren't very touchy-feely, none of that stuff. And I'm like, this is weird, but I like it. And so having him to be more of a positive influence for me, it really helped guide me through those years and just really strengthening my foundation to be a good mom at that time. Yeah.
So you have a little baby though. And so, and he's doing things you're not like normally receptive of. So I'm curious why he stuck around. Like,
I don't know.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it like obviously God needed you guys to be together,
of course,
and he gave Kenny an excellent grace for that. But like you weren't doing, it seems like you had him pushed out a little bit, but you're also like, come here.
Yeah, that's exactly how I can describe it. It's like, I love you, but go away. One of those kind of things. And he stayed, and he was the first person in my life that I felt like really cared enough to help me work through some of the things I was trying to process and, overcome and heal from. He never gave up. And I know I was a piece of work.
What was it like when you guys you guys are dating, but dating when you have a baby is one thing. Trying to have conversations about marriage and you have a kid, it's not his kid. He's a young guy too. What are those conversations like for people who are out there and like,
You know what? I don't know. I think at the very beginning, so my daughter was 10 months old when we started dating. So it was no getting away from it. We're a package deal at this point.
Yeah.
And so even to move forward in starting a relationship, I had to be comfortable to know that he accepted that. And he did. And he took on the responsibility and was just there, present. Anything I needed, he was very helpful with her and just a really great positive role model for her. So it was just really great. Now, I do understand that that's not typical.
Mm-hmm.
I do also understand that, staying with someone that you start dating in high school isn't typical. So here we are defying all these many different odds and just really excelling. And so I can't do anything but just be thankful for him that the Lord loved me enough to send him to me to help me and to help me to grow and strengthen my relationship with the Lord. And it's just been really great.
So how did that work? So if he helped you get there, obviously you got to nurture that relationship with God yourself, though.
Yeah.
So he sort of just starts bringing you to church. You get involved in that atmosphere, or was it something else that sort of picked up?
We went to church. There's no exception to that. And he just kind of really helped strengthen. He encouraged me to want to get to know the Lord more, to see what this joy was that he always exhibited, because he's always so happy and just, I'm like, bruh.
Have you seen the world I live in?
Like, for real? Like,
do you know how much diapers are?
Listen, when we first started dating, look, so my house, I told you, we yell, we scream, all of that stuff. I met his mom, and she just whispers. She's so soft. I'm like, your mama never yelled at you? Like, this is weird. He's like, my mom never yelled at me.
She never threw a shoe at you?
Nothing. And so the first time he came over my house and met my parents was a whole different story. My mama was not here for it at all.
She said, who's this dude?
She didn't even come out and talk to him.
No, she gave him the cold shoulder.
She gave him all the cold shoulder. She was not feeling it. She wasn't here for it. She went about her business. But no, I think being around that, and I'm like, wow, this is so different than what I'm used to. And I was just so desperate for some peace that I wanted to find it in any way that I could. And so he was like, the Lord is your peace. Yeah. Seek after him. And he really encouraged me to develop my own relationship with the Lord. So yeah,
for me, I would like drive, because I was still working at the casino when I got born again. And so I'd have this like half-hour commute both ways. And I started listening to Christian radio for the first time. Even though I wasn't really going to church yet, I was sort of like, churches just want my money.
Right.
I ain't going there. That's where the Joel Osteens of the world just want to steal everything from me. I don't want none of that. So but I would listen to like these, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know who I was listening to. It sounded like old-timey Billy Graham stuff to me. I didn't know who I was listening to, but it was the first time I was hearing the word preached, and so it started resonating with me, and I was like, ooh, this is good. Learning Bible verses for the first time, hearing scripture, and you're like, it is mind-altering when you really start to develop that relationship with the Lord. So what was it for you? Was it worship? Was it Bible reading? What was a catalyst in your walk with Christ?
You know what? I would say worship and studying the Bible was the biggest thing for me. And because of that, as you know, many may not know, but through my entire childhood, I really struggled with depression a lot. And so getting that word in me is what I really feel like helped me come out of that, even though it was very challenging. I love to worship. I love to create an atmosphere where it's just positive music going on and just really studying the word and knowing it for myself. And for me, it gave me a hope for something more than what I was used to.
Yeah. I want to talk about depression.
Let's talk about it.
Because, man, I haven't been able to talk to anybody about this, but like I was depressed for my entire addiction. Wow. So 10 years I lived in a state of depression where like every day was just like the worst day of my life. I couldn't ever see a sunny sky and be happy about it. Like I was just always I describe it as like I had this war in my mind. Like I was always worried about something. I owe this guy money. I got to pay my rent. Oh, I just blew my rent money on something. Oh, I want to get to the casino tonight and spend my $300 I got out of my paycheck. Like there was always these negative thoughts. There was always fighting. And it caused me to like just fall to whatever vice or anything whether it was the gambling or I started eating back then. I was a skinny guy in my early 20s. I put on like 100 pounds in like less than a year because when I would lose all my money, I would go and eat and get like 4 McChickens or something because I only had I'd be digging quarters out of my back seat, trying to find some food money because I spent it all at the casino. This is real talk.
Yeah.
And so I was very, very depressed. And it wasn't until Jesus showed up that I even started to understand how to get out of that and things like that. When you were dealing with that, what did it look like for you?
Oh my gosh. It was one of those things where, so I grew up in I would say, religious household.
Yeah.
And depression was one of those taboo things for us back then. It's like, you ain't depressed, just pray it off you.
Yeah.
And like, no, something is wrong. I'm like, there's a chemical imbalance with me somewhere. And so trying to walk through that, being bullied at school. So all of those things just kind of pushed me into this deep, dark hole. And I remember the first time that I attempted to take my life, I was 15, and I took every pill that was in the house that I could find. I was just so angry. I'm like, I'm sick of this. I'm out. And this is how I know the Lord is real, because that time I took all those pills, I should have been dead.
Yeah.
And I made it. I just so happened to be working at a McDonald's that was inside of the hospital. So I took the pills, got dropped off to work, and passed out. But I'm in the hospital. How does that happen?
Why is McDonald's in the hospital?
I don't even know.
Why are they serving Big Macs and Whoppers and,
I don't
and
know.
cholesterol in the hospital?
People gotta eat. People gotta eat. No, I remember just doing that time, and so I didn't get any therapy. It was like, we gonna just pray it off of you, and it didn't work. And I was still struggling with it. Things would change here and there, and I would have moments where I'm like, I'm okay, I'm good. And then I would have moments where I would crash and just burn. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to do anything. It's just dark and gray. And so trying to navigate through that, not having answers to it, was very, very difficult. All I know is that I was tired of dealing with it. And so I was like on this hamster wheel with it, and I never really truly experiencing deliverance from it until I really surrendered it all to the Lord and did some healing from some things I needed to really let go of. But it was tough.
The first time you said you tried to take your life.
Oh, yeah.
So this was an ongoing.
I probably would say in my entire life, there were 3 attempts in my entire life. And I remember I'm well married after this and living my best life, got the kids. And I remember I was like having I don't even know what happened, but I was just gone. And I didn't have a plan. But I was sitting at work, and I was telling my husband, I'm just ready to die. I just don't feel a need for me. I feel like y'all be better off without me. Take care of the kids. I'm just
How old are
backing
you
up.
at this point?
Oh, my gosh. Early 20s.
Okay.
And so he literally came and got me from my desk and dropped me off at the psych ward. And I shared this before, but it was at that moment I had to hit my rock bottom. And at that moment, I was just like, I cannot deal with this anymore. I have children now. I'm like, God, I just can't. I want to be healed from this. I don't want to just put the Band-Aid over it. I need to treat the symptoms and get the help I need so that I can be better. And that's what happened. And I don't take any antidepressants or any of that stuff, but I do work very hard to maintain my mental health. I'm very intentional about creating an atmosphere of peace for me and not letting things bother me. And it's been good so far. So
your 20-year-old husband has to drop you off at the psych ward. Boy, have you guys really packed a lot of mileage onto that early marriage.
Man.
We got young babies.
Yes,
we got a psych ward visit. We got a suicide
Man.
attempt. Holy moly.
Crazy. So imagine, we got married when we were 20. And then we had our other 2 children shortly after. So imagine, we got little kids, we struggling, and your wife depressed. I just can't even, I don't even know how God gave him the grace to deal with all of that, but I'm grateful that he did.
You said that you guys started dating, and he, became a catalyst to sort of encourage you to go on your walk with the Lord. Yet you're still struggling with this depression. You're still facing issues that, like you said, people are like, we're just going to pray it off you. You're just going to be delivered in Jesus' name. Walk in your deliverance.
Right.
And you're like, lady, I still feel crazy.
I'm sad still.
And I think that's real. Like oftentimes, we got to walk by faith. That's what we're told to do, and we do it as best we can. But that doesn't stop the thoughts from coming.
It doesn't.
The demons from, flowing around your head, giving you all the bad ideas. Like, hey, like for you, I had 3 kids after Christ showed up in my life. Well, I've had 4. And I can't imagine trying to put myself in a situation where I want to leave them. But you were in a place where that was on the table. Not even your kids or your relationship with them was, a catalyst to keep you here on this earth. So what was it? What was it in your mind that you were thinking?
I will say now it was the enemy just telling me that I'm not worthy. No one cares about me. And now, mind you, I got a whole husband and kids that I know love me.
Yeah.
But those thoughts that the enemy fed me were louder than what my reality was, because I was never really healed from it. See, your dad wasn't around, like all these really jovial things that in the moment now, but it just made me feel very worthless. I felt like I had no value. No one really cared about me. And those thoughts screamed louder than anything else that I could hear at that time.
Yeah. So you end up in the psych ward for this. And I've heard your testimony. You're leaving something out of the psych ward story, I feel like. There was there was a moment. Well, come to Jesus moment.
My come to Jesus moment. Literally. They encourage us to participate in all these groups, and I'm rolling my eyes because it's funny now, but I appreciate the facility that I was in and all the help that they gave me. But they encourage you to do these exercises and do these group things. I'm like, I don't want to do none of that. I don't really care. This lady over here is screaming at me because she think I stole her Cormex. I don't care about no group session right now. And now, mind you, I'm in there with like people that are doing withdrawal from drugs and just all kinds of stuff. So it was terrifying for me. And I'm like, I'm ready to go home. I hate my husband. He don't even love me. He just dropped me off here. Like all these things racing through my mind.
I can see that.
And I remember he came to visit me, and mind you, they take your shoestrings. You can't have your phone. It's like locked down, like strip search everything.
Oh my goodness, like Silence of the Lambs, they got you strapped up and stuff or what?
No, I wasn't strapped. No.
Hello, Kenny.
But it was just like the weirdest. I'm like, I feel like I'm in jail. Like it was locked down, and they make sure of course they don't want you to have anything where you could like attempt to take your life while you're in there. And so I remember Kenny brought me a bag, and they searched my bag, made sure I had no drawstring on my pants and all that stuff. I was like, I hate this. I hate you. I hate everything. And so I was very rebellious against the process being in there initially. But then they took us to this room, and they had a bunch of books in it. And of course, there's a Bible in there. One Bible that nobody touching at all. Everybody wants the other books. And I was like,
it's always dusty until it's time.
And so I said, well, I'm going to just read some scripture. I'm used to reading the Bible. And it was the night before I got discharged. I sat in there and people screaming and stuff. And I'm like, God, I don't want to be here anymore. I just like had this switch flip on. And I started praying, and I said, God, please help me with this. I can't do it anymore. I've tried to maintain for all these years. I've failed. I'm completely surrendering this to you, and I'm asking for healing. And I shared this, but in that moment, it was like nothing else existed. It was just me and the Lord just gently said to me, I'm going to make you whole. And from that moment on, that's when I got off the antidepressants. That's when I didn't have to do therapy. Like I was done. And I remember they recommended that I still continue with this like intensive outpatient therapy where I was still going to group 3 days a week for 3 hours a day. Wow. And in this group, I remember one of the ladies sitting there, and she was just really, really down. She was just very depressed. And she was like, I just am very jealous of you. And I'm like, why? She said, because you found something. For some reason, you're better. What are you doing? And I was like, I can't give credit to anything but God. And so I literally would write scriptures everywhere I go, on my walls and my closets. I just wanted to be saturated with the word so that when those thoughts tried to come, I now had the tools to defeat them. And that's what I did. Yeah.
So God shows up, delivers you from this thing, and it sets you on a crash course of fire for the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, for real.
And like, so you're diving deep into your relationship with God at this point. What changes do you start to see in your life after that?
They weren't immediate, but what I did start to see is that I could better manage my emotions. I could better identify when the enemy was doing things versus me just feeling a certain way. Because let's be real, our emotions and our feelings, they're going to lie. They are not all the time. And so I really just began to stand firm on what the word says versus what I felt. I really went through this season of truly walking by faith. Technically, I should be on all the medicines and all of this stuff, but I'm not. And I'm going to continue to walk in faith that this was God's plan for me. But it wasn't always easy. It was a journey to strengthen, because I was a baby Christian, really, and really trying to develop that relationship with the Lord. But he got me through it.
Amen to that. So I want to put a pause in your story for a second and talk about the medicine. when I was in the midst of my depression and I finally had to, share my addiction with family and friends, and you go through stages of like, like you called it a cycle in your life. Like a cycle is very much part of an addict's life. It's like, do the thing you're addicted to. Something happens, you got to like confess, or you run out, right? And so you got to like reach out for help, and then you have a period of relief, and then it just starts all back over again, right? And so it goes over and over and over and over again. So in that season, with friends and family, they'd be like, all right, well, we're going to take your debit cards, or we're going to keep an eye on your money for you, or we're not going to bail you out of the situation, or we think you need to go to Gamblers Anonymous meetings, or we want you to go to the group home, or we want you to go to the counselor and the psychologist. And this is why I want to get to it, is because I spent a lot of time sitting in chairs across from somebody trying to talk me through my addiction, trying to get me out of my depression, trying to get me help for the things that were struggling with me. And one of the big things that I found was that they were quick, very quick, in my opinion, to prescribe medication for this thing that I've described to them in an hour. I just met you, and you're going to now put me on some serious narcotics. For what? Like, and I remember taking these medicines, and the whole world disappeared. Like, it was like, I didn't gamble on them. They are the greatest anti-gambling medications I've ever had in my entire life. But I also didn't get off the couch. I had no hope for life. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to drive. I didn't want to go to the store. Like, I wanted to do nothing. And this is the kind of medication that they gave us to live on. And that's not how you live.
No.
That's not a life to live. You're talking about, I'm in a depressed state, and you've now put me in a state that maybe is worse. Maybe is worse.
Yes.
And so all this medication, what are we doing to people?
You know what? I was on a vicious cycle just with the antidepressants, and they were trying to find the right one for me, and I was just like, my goodness. And some of them made me feel more depressed. I'm like, just as what you described, I'm like, I am sick. I don't even want to be here, and I'm on the medicine. And that's one of the reasons why I said, God, I'm not doing no more medicine. I can't. I have to be healed from this, because I cannot do it, because it's so personality altering sometimes. And it just, for me, it was not the answer for me. It was just bad. I didn't like it. I didn't like how it made me feel. I didn't like how it kind of, I wasn't in a dark space, but I was just kind of sunk in this gray area. It didn't give me the life I would have hoped it would have. Yeah.
And so I think of the people who are out in the world now who talk about all the pills they take to go to sleep or to stop their anxiety. Anxiety is one of the big words of this really generation, right? Like, we got all these anxiety meds, and I'm really scared that these people are masking something that needs to be unleashed almost. You almost got to let that out of you so that you can get to a point where Jesus shows up.
Absolutely. And I think that that's important, because, and Pastor Aeneas always talks to us about getting to the root cause of things, because if you're just band-aiding it with the medicine, you're going to continue to be challenged with that until you deal with the issue, the problem, let all of that stuff out so that you can begin to be healthy.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to this. I mean, it's not like I'm some, because I am an advocate for saying, okay, if you're a believer and you need to take some medicine for something, I'm not anti-medicine. I'm not anti, you can never take medicine ever again. It's the devil's drug. And that's not my person. I take ibuprofen all the time.
I'm telling you, I got a headache. It's time. Give me some medicine.
But there are things that I think are preventing us from feeling and thinking, really, what's going on in our own minds. Yeah. And this anxiety one is really one I struggle with, watching, the younger generation, all the people, because, what social media has done is allowed us to see a lot of different varieties of what people were already feeling, but now we're seeing it in public. And people got channels talking about their anxiety problems, and they got 10,000 followers. I'm like, what? You got you need to go forget about this.
Help.
Get off your YouTube channel and get to the therapist. And so I don't know what the answer to this is, but I other than Jesus, right?
Right.
But I want to see people who have depression, especially, because I know what it's like to not feel like you need to wake up in the morning. And so many times I would pray, and I not really pray. I would go to sleep, and I'd be like, I just don't want to wake up. I hope I don't wake up. I hope I don't wake up. And so many people are out there thinking like that. And you were like that, and I was like that. And you tried to take your life. And the night that I found the Lord, I was about to take every pill in my house. I was ready to, I had a friend who had jumped off a bridge a year before my moment with God, and I was like, I'm just going to go to the bridge he jumped off of and do it too. And so it's like, depression leads to bad things.
It does. It does.
And if it's undiagnosed or if it's untreated, it's bad. Now, I don't want you to treat it necessarily by covering it up with medicine, but I want to encourage people, go seek the Lord.
Right.
Go have this moment like you're talking about.
Right.
Get made whole.
And I'll tell you this too. I love doctors. God bless doctors to be able to do what they do as well. So I'm like you. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not opposed to medicine. I am an advocate though for trying everything else before I have to do medicine, because what I also found is that later on in my life, when I was off the antidepressants and all that stuff, I had a severely low vitamin D level, which also can contribute to depression if it's not treated. And so while I, again, appreciate the doctors for what they do, it's also important to really seek out other avenues, and there are holistic things that you can do before going on medicine that can too help with depression, exercising, those types of things that they don't push on you as much as they will try to push the antidepressant on you.
There's no money in exercise.
Hello.
Well, there is, but not if you're just going outside and going on a walk, you know.
And so I am, although again, I'm not bashing those that take medicine, because I do realize that sometimes it is necessary, but also recognizing that there are other things that should be checked as well before you just go to medicine as your last resort.
Yeah, as a believer, we know that there are spirits involved in this.
Oh, absolutely.
And people who are unsaved have no idea
Right.
that what they're dealing with is actually a spirit. Could be a legion of demons on you.
Right.
There could be a lot going on. I really feel like God revealed to me. Now, I don't share this publicly, so this is the first time I'm talking about this. But I feel that God spoke to me that I had a legion of demons in me, and that when I got delivered of them, you know, it was very important that I didn't, you know, let them get back influenced on me. And so, you know, we prayed over that. I got prayed for that a lot in my life, and I really felt like what I explained earlier, like the war that was going on in my mind when Jesus delivered me of that. Like, it was the first time that I was clear-headed. Like, you talked about trying to find peace earlier, and it was like very important for you to find peace. It was the one thing I needed, but I didn't know I needed it. Like, you described that you wanted peace. Like, I had no idea that I wanted peace.
Wow.
I had this warm. I just wanted it to stop. I didn't know. I wasn't thinking. I wanted to be peaceful up there. I was thinking, just stop it.
Stop it.
Stop it.
I'm done.
And when God took those thoughts out of my mind, He delivered me from my addiction, and all of a sudden, it's silence in my mind for the first time in a long time, and I'm able to think, well, I don't know what to start thinking about,
Right.
you know. So I just started thinking about Jesus, and He, you know, transformed by the renewing of your mind. That is so real.
Yeah.
It's so real, renewing your mind. And so when you get into a situation where you're dealing with, whether it's depression or any other, you know, mental anxiety or whatever it is,
Right.
the Lord is so important to that recovery. And you experience this in your own walk. You get out of the psych ward. You're walking in a new marriage. I bet you Kenny was so happy.
You're like, yes, finally.
You get into a season of life where you're, you know,
I'm free.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good word. And so how did you guys handle freedom?
You know what, for me, I can't speak for my husband, I'm just gonna guess here, but I think there was a season where he was like, is this real? So if I were to get sad, because it's a human emotion, and I'm like, I'm not depressed, I'm just sad, you know, I'll be all right, you know. So trying to navigate through that, and the people that knew that I was dealing with that, it was funny because every time they would see me and I wasn't like smiling or something, they instantly like, oh, she must be depressed again. I'm like, I'm not depressed. I'm fine. I can be sad sometimes. But as time went on, it became easier and easier for us to kind of navigate through some things, and certain things that would trigger me didn't bother me anymore. Yeah,
that's so crazy. And it's hard to explain to people.
It is.
That you can go through this, I mean, years of difficult seasons of life where you feel like there's no hope, and everybody looks at you is like,
right.
Don't go near that crazy person.
Right.
They got, that you are the example they use when they're talking about people, about how bad their life is, about how, I'm just glad I'm not them.
It's me.
Like, you've been the butt of those conversations, so have I, you know. And it's so hard to explain to people that when Jesus shows up, if you really let him, if you make him the Lord of your life, that stuff can just go away.
It can.
It just goes away. And now you might look at my life and see, like, most of the people who knew me back then don't recognize me.
Right.
They're like, who is this dude?
Listen.
I had all those conversations with friends I used to work with at the casino. They're like, oh, I'll be surprised this last 6 months. I'll be surprised. If he's still a Christian in a year, I'll be a Christian. And 10 years later, where y'all at?
Right.
Come back. And so God can take these things away.
Yeah.
And there's no way to explain it to somebody who hasn't experienced it. The peace that you can experience, the peace that you're so desperate for that you have no idea that you're desperate for, is available.
Yes.
It's available through Christ. Now, most of the time, you're a non-believer. You don't even think about Christ as being the answer to these things. And so, you know, we need shows like this. We need testimonies like this in order to encourage people, because what you don't need is a sermon right now. What you need to hear is that somebody has gone through what you've gone through and they've gotten out of it, and you can get out of it too.
That's exactly it. That is exactly it. And I think for me, being so young and I was new to faith and all those things, I never got that. I just got, let's pray about it and we're going to keep it moving. We anoint you and you go about your business. But it wasn't helpful for me. And I understand it. I'm not knocking it. I understand that season, because there is an era where that worked for some people. It just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
And I needed something tangible. I needed something real. And that was the only way that I was going to get through it. And so I just created my own encounter with the Lord. Like, God, if you real, this is it. This is the final straw, Lord. And so because of that, I do willingly share my story. And I was very hesitant at first because it's embarrassing. You're a Christian. It looks like everything is going great, but inside you're just crumbling and falling apart. And to share that and be open, the first time I shared the whole magnitude of that testimony, the outpouring was just crazy.
Oh, I bet.
But it was encouraging to see that I could be that vessel, that someone that may not feel that there is any hope, they don't know anyone that's really overcome this, that there's an answer. There is some type of person that has dealt with this and come on the other side of it victoriously, and that's what's encouraging for me. And so I recognize that even though it was difficult for me to deal with, it wasn't just about me. It was so that I could help others that are in that same situation.
The testimony is so important, and what you just said, like, it took you some courage to share that story for the first time. I've come to this realization, I don't know if this is true every single time, but I feel like this is true most of the time, is that you really can't share that testimony until you're over it. Until you're past it.
For sure.
You're not sharing about your addiction while you're in the midst of your addiction. I've overcome by the blood of the... No, like, you're still walking in it.
Right.
You know? So most people will just either keep that hidden or secret or, you know, just to the people who know. And if you're willing to get on a platform in front of people who are strangers and say, hey, look at this. I was in the psych ward. You ever heard of the psych ward?
Right.
It's where they take away your shoelaces.
Took my shoestrings, took my phone. Couldn't do nothing.
My husband delivered me there and then came and visited me through the glass later. And
I think I asked him to bring me a filet of fish sandwich.
Quit it. Hey, McDonald's, I know you were there for the first time. You want to be there for my second suicide?
Bring me a fish sandwich or I'm going to lose it. No.
No mayonnaise, please.
Right. No, but I just thank God that first that I was granted that platform to be able to share. That's always one of those things where it's difficult because people see you. Unless you really know me, you don't know that until I share the story. And so now it's out there. Everyone saw it. And so, but it was very well received, and it was very encouraging to see other people receive their deliverance through that, me sharing my story. So I'm just very appreciative of that.
Yeah, I think that's for anybody. So if you're someone, just speaking globally now, right? If someone has the inkling in their heart, you feel that stirring, like, oh God, he's gonna make me tell it, isn't he? Like, God's gonna make me tell this story. I don't want to tell this story. These people are strangers. I don't want to tell them. And if you're getting that in your heart, I think it's time to tell them. And it's also and it's a great indicator of knowing that God has taken you out of this, because you can't share a story that you're still writing.
Hello.
It's the story's over. It's been written. It's been the ink's dry.
Right.
We are born and set free of that. And now we're delivered of, and we created a testimony that's now going to bless somebody else. And it's so important.
I would definitely encourage, as you stated, whatever you have gone through and you've overcome it, it's very encouraging for those that are still going through those types of things, whatever it may be, to hear your story. And so that's one of the things that I always kept in the back of my mind. And I know that the Lord says to me, it's not just about me. It's not just about me. It's so that you can help someone else. And I encourage anyone in any type of situation that they were challenged with, that they've gone through, please give the wisdom to those that need that help. Yeah. It's definitely important.
Yeah, I want to put a pin in your story and sort of share. We've shared a lot of the bad stuff, but let's talk about some of the good stuff.
Of course.
So let's talk about how you went from someone who was depressed in the psych ward to finding a God relationship, and now you're sort of you're the heartbart of the church, as I've said already twice, and you don't have to receive that, but I'm going to say it anyway. And so you're in a position now where where you're at the high leadership levels of a growing body of believers in the city of St. Louis. I can't imagine you were having any thoughts like that at any point in that journey until it finally arrived. So first, tell me how you got there, and second, tell me what it's like for you now.
You know what? I accredit a lot of where I am now to our pastors, and here's why. When we first started going to the Spirit Church, and it's been about 10 years now.
How did you figure to go there? Because Kenny's dad was he was pastor. And
yeah. So the Lord had dealt with us that it was time to separate from that church, which was very difficult for my husband. It's his family. It's his mom and his dad's
Can't
ministry.
leave dad's church.
Yeah. And so my husband is not a church hopper. He's a let's get planted, let's serve. Like, he's very kingdom minded that way. And we had been to a couple of churches locally, and he had a friend that was I don't know what his role was at the time, but he was at Spirit Church. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm at this church, Spirit Church. Why don't you guys come on over? So he went scope out the land by himself first before I came.
He was Caleb.
Yeah. I was like, well, tell me what you think. Yeah. And so
grapes the size
he
of your
was
head.
like, I love this church, man. It was so good. And so the next Sunday we came and we joined on the spot instantly. And I remember my third Sunday there, I was behind the platform, just pushing out the podium and pushing out the TV, and I did that faithfully. I loved it.
A sign of things to come.
Yes, praise the Lord. But it was a sermon that Pastor Tracy had taught on the Roman 12 giftings.
Motivation gifts. Yep.
Yes, and so I had never heard a sermon like that before. I didn't really even know about giftings. And when she went through her teaching and she explained all the different giftings and what they were, it like all the spotlights came on, like, oh, this is it.
Yes.
I found it. And so when I was equipped with that information, I was unstoppable. I'm like, this is what I'm called to do. And I was working customer service for over a decade because it was the easiest job for me to get. And I was like, I'm quitting. I'm finding something in my purpose.
It's funny when God shows up and you discover God has a purpose for your life. You're like, I'm going to get that.
I'm going. I'm going to get it. And
I'll quit whatever job, Lord.
Whatever, Lord. And so I really got into, because I love administrative type things.
Yeah, of course you do.
I got into a line of work where I could use that gifting, and it was just so fulfilling for me. And the journey continued to progress as I, was just faithful in whatever God told me to do at the time. And it's just amazing what can come out of you when you have people around you that believe in you. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've been surrounded by with both our pastors, Pastor Nias and Pastor Tracy. I'm like, thank you for seeing in me what I don't even see in myself sometimes. And because of that, it's really helped shape me and mold me into the person that I am. And I feel unstoppable. So I'm just going to try to conquer it all.
Yeah. So do you remember, were there moments where they were trying to, you said 3 weeks in you're pushing on a podium, so you're getting tapped on the shoulder pretty easy. Is that because you guys were a mobile church and they needed all the hands on deck, or did they see something in you right away? Or
probably they needed the help, because I don't think at this point I had ever really had a conversation with Pastor, except the first time.
How you doing?
Yeah, the greeting, the first time guest, if you will. But the gentleman that invited us was like, "Hey, there's a need. We could use some help." I'm like, sure, I don't mind helping. I love being behind the scenes. Nobody would ever see me.
Your background singing.
Yes. And so that invitation just to be a part to serve was impactful for me. And I just was like, I'm going to push this podium out to the best of my ability. I'm going to make sure it's straight, like all those things. And as I continue to grow and sit under the teaching of both the Pastor A and T, it just really strengthened my relationship even more. And it also made me desire and want for more for myself than I was previously expecting. So it was really good.
One of the things you mentioned was discovering your gift was very important. That's the first message. I try to share, it's in both my books. I talk about this, the value in knowing who God made you is so important to your identity.
Yes.
And so many people are walking around informationless. They do not know why or how they've been made.
Yeah.
And so for you to hear that administration is a motivational gift, meaning it motivates you to wake up every morning and it motivates you to do good work for the Christ Jesus, Ephesians 2:10. Like, you found that out and it changed everything for you.
It was the game changer for me. And I wake up now, I love what I do. I'm in purpose. And so I'm living my best life, as they say, because I'm in purpose. It's not because of money or everything is going right, but I feel very fulfilled in where I am, and I'm just excited about life.
Doesn't always mean it's easy, though. So
no.
So I want to hear, because I don't know if you have a story like this, but I imagine there was like a moment where they finally see Maxine. There's a star over her head. They see some magic and some twinkle in Maxine's in her eye, and they're like, "Hey, Max, we want you to come and do something special for us. We want you to come on board our team." And I'm sure it was maybe a little uncomfortable at first, or maybe what were those conversations like when they were like, "All right, Maxine, you're up. You're going to be a big part of our team moving forward."
You know what? My first shoulder tap, if you will, I saw a job posting for an office position with the church, and I remember I emailed my resume to Pastor Sam. I'm like, "Oh, this would be great for me," and I didn't get the job.
What? What? They didn't even bring you in?
No. What happened was, I think I got a call from Pastor.
Where's Pastor Sim? I'm taking his episode down from YouTube.
No, but I think Pastor Nias called me and was like, it sounds like you'd be a great fit to be like my executive assistant. Wasn't on staff. I was just working for him as his assistant. I'm like, okay, I'll try anything. Yeah. And through that relationship, when the position opened up again, it was between me and another person. Well, I didn't get the job again.
Oh my gosh. They keep stepping over Max.
No, but again, the Lord had a plan. He knew I probably wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And so then the position came around again. While by this time I'm working at WashU. I'm good. I'm retiring at WashU. They got all these benefits, and my kids can go to college for free. And I'm like, I'm good. I ain't going nowhere. Mm-hmm. And the position opened up again, and Pastor Neil was like, "What do you think about taking the role?" I'm like, well, let me pray on it. Let me talk to my husband. And then my husband just said, "What's in your heart? What do you want to do?" And I was like, I would love to be in ministry full time. And I just decided to walk away from that. And it was, there were moments prior to me actually coming on staff where I remember one Sunday, Pastor was like, "You and Kenny do the welcome." I'm like, "Who?"
Me?
What? I didn't rehearse the cello this. I push out podiums. I don't do. And it was just so off guard, and me and Kenny just had unrehearsed. I'm like, okay, what do Pastor normally say around this time? What do Pastor T say around this time? Unrehearsed, unscripted, and then we just went for it. So there were little moments like that in between where he trusted us with little. And my heart was just to be faithful and faithfully serve them. And so being on staff was just like the bonus for me, because all I wanted to do was just serve, and that's what I did. Yeah,
so that's a good place to be for anybody who's at the church, because you talk about church hoppers, or you talk about people who are like looking for that place that they feel like they belong, right? The best way to find a way where you belong is to serve inside the community, because you can't be involved. You can't be a part of something unless you're doing the things that other people are doing, right? So otherwise you're just sort of watching.
Right.
Yeah, and so I think it's so important to be service. Now, what's your heart?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I don't share, when we were at his father's church, we were like boots to the ground, very hands-on, very involved, doing so much. But I didn't come to the Spirit Church with this mindset of like, I'm already a minister. I'm a youth minister. I teach messages. I just came very humbly with just giving my gifts to serve them. I didn't have any type of agenda or anything like that. My heart was just to serve. And I think that it's important when you're stepping into like going to a new church, or even in the church body that you're a part of now, just be fully submitted to the house and just be willing to jump in wherever there's a need for service, and you won't fail. You'll do good.
Submission is a thing I'm still learning about. A lot of people are talking about it right now in the church. It's very important. Service is an act of submission, whether it's to a person or whether it's to a community or whether it's to a body of Christ. For you though, like you said, use your gifts. Like, you discovered your gifts along the way. It wasn't like your heart for service wasn't necessarily tied to your specific gifts.
No.
My heart to serve was first. Secondarily was like, can I please serve in the area where I feel motivated to wake up and do good things in, right? So
yeah, but even in the no's I got throughout this journey, I showed up every Sunday. I was faithful again. And
were you hurt?
My feelings were hurt.
Okay,
yeah, naturally. My feelings were hurt, but I know without a shadow of a doubt that Pastor Nias and Pastor Tracy hear from the Lord. And if it was a no right now, I accepted that, feelings hurt and all, and I moved on. I said, well, God, if it's for me, it might come at another time. And I just kept it moving. The Spirit Church. Oh, I love the church. I love you guys. Maxine, thanks for coming on the show today. Thanks for having me.
It's been so much fun. Everybody, where do we find Maxine? You got a book out there. You got some stuff you can plug.
I do. Yeah. I have a book, a 21-day devotional on Amazon. For those that are looking, it's called To the Max.
To the Max. We didn't even get into all your actress affairs, but maybe next time.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. But I do want to say thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank
you. And to everybody who's watching the podcast, don't forget to click that subscribe button. Until next time, guys, we pray you discover a future and a hope for your life today.